Welcome back to the All Sorts podcast. Sometimes it feels like every time we do one of these deep dives, it's like we're spelunking into some hidden cave.
Yeah.
You never know what we're going to find. Today, we're going to shine a light on the React framework.
Ooh.
And specifically, we're going to look at why developers seem to just love this thing. We got a bunch of articles here from all of you about React, and I've got our resident web dev guru here to help us decipher the code.
It's exciting to be here. There's definitely a lot of love out there for React.
Yeah, so let's just set the stage for folks that might not be super familiar. Can we get just a super quick rundown of what React actually is?
Well, at its heart, React is a JavaScript library for building user interfaces. So that's the visual stuff that people interact with on websites and apps.
Gotcha.
It's basically like a toolbox full of pre-written efficient code that lets developers build dynamic and interactive interfaces.
Nice.
It was created by a Facebook engineer back in 2011
Okay.
with the goal of just making UI development smoother and more streamlined.
And it seems like it really hit a nerve.
Yeah.
I mean, we've got some stats here that show that React is like a total rock star in the development world.
Sure.
Like the 2022 Stack Overflow developer survey.
Yeah.
It showed that React.js blew past jQuery as the top web framework.
Yeah.
And a full 1 in 4 developers said it was their most desired framework
It's popular.
to work with. Those are some serious numbers.
Yeah.
So I got to know, what's the secret sauce here?
Yeah.
What are the main ingredients that make React so appealing to developers?
Well, one of React's greatest strengths, I would say, is its component-based architecture.
Okay.
So imagine building something with Legos.
Right.
Each brick is a self-contained unit with a purpose.
Okay.
In React, these are called components.
Gotcha.
So developers can create these reusable components for things like buttons, menus, or even entire page sections.
Okay.
And then piece them together like building blocks to create really complex user interfaces.
So it's kind of like having this library of prefabricated UI elements that you can just assemble and customize.
Exactly.
That's going to be super efficient.
It is. It really is. And not only does it make development faster, but it also promotes code reusability and maintainability.
Right.
So if you need to make a change, you can often just adjust a single component
Gotcha.
without messing up the entire structure.
So that's got to be a huge win for developers who are working on these big, complicated projects.
Yeah.
That's like having a really well-organized toolbox.
Yeah.
You can just find the exact tool you need,
Yeah,
make a tweak, and boom, you're done.
exactly. And then to make creating these components even smoother, React uses something called JSX.
JSX. Okay, I've heard this term thrown around. What's the deal with JSX?
So JSX lets developers write HTML-like code directly within their JavaScript.
Okay.
It might sound kind of weird at first, but it actually makes the code a lot more readable and intuitive, especially when you're dealing with the structure and the logic of user interfaces.
So instead of constantly switching back and forth between HTML files and JavaScript files,
Exactly.
it just brings it all together.
It does.
Okay, I can see why that would be appealing.
It makes it so much easier to work with.
Okay, so and then on top of that, we're going to talk about performance.
Yeah,
React is known for being super fast.
you got it.
And I know a big part of that is because of this thing called the virtual DOM.
You got it.
Can you unpack that a little bit for us? What makes the virtual DOM so special?
Imagine you're editing the blueprint of a really complex machine.
Okay.
Instead of making changes on the machine itself,
Right.
you would modify the blueprint.
Gotcha.
Figure out the most efficient way to make those changes, and then you apply them in a precise manner.
Right.
That's basically what the virtual DOM does.
Okay.
It's this lightweight representation of the actual web page structure.
Okay.
So when you make changes, React first updates this virtual representation. It figures out the most efficient way to update the actual web page.
Right.
And then only applies those specific changes.
So it's like performing surgery with a scalpel
Exactly.
instead of a sledgehammer.
Yes.
That's got to be a lot faster.
It's way faster.
than just updating the whole web page.
Yeah, like the old way of doing things.
Right, yeah.
Which is just super inefficient.
So, okay, we've talked about the technical wizardry behind React.
Yeah.
But what about the everyday benefits for developers?
Yeah.
What are some of the things that make React just so enjoyable to work with?
Well, one of the really nice things about React is that it's relatively easy to learn.
Okay.
If you already know JavaScript, picking up React is fairly straightforward.
Okay.
The concepts are pretty intuitive.
Right.
And there are tons of resources, tutorials, and documentation
Gotcha.
to guide you along the way.
So it's not like you're walking into this super intimidating black box.
Not at all.
Okay, that's good to know.
Yeah, and once you grasp those fundamentals, You can build some pretty impressive things
Cool.
fairly quickly. And another big plus is React's commitment to backward compatibility.
Okay.
We all know that web development moves super fast.
Yeah, things change all the time.
Exactly. But React really tries to make sure that older code continues to work smoothly, even with the new releases.
That's got to be such a relief for developers.
It is.
Because it means you don't have to constantly go back and rewrite everything.
Exactly.
Every time there's an update.
You can just keep building on what you've already done.
That makes sense. So we've talked about how reusable components make development faster, but can you give us like a real-world example of how that plays out in a project?
Sure. So let's say you're building an online store.
Okay.
And you need to display product information, the title, the image, the price.
Yeah.
For hundreds of items.
Right.
Well, instead of writing the same code over and over again,
Right.
you could create a single product card component that takes in the data and displays it in a visually appealing way.
Right.
Then you can just reuse that component for each product,
Right.
just plugging in the specific information for each one.
That's brilliant because you're not constantly copying and pasting.
Yeah, no more repetition.
Okay, super efficient. And then let's not forget about that virtual DOM.
The virtual DOM.
Yeah, the blueprint analogy that you were using earlier.
Yeah.
Can you just remind us again how that's different from the old way of doing things?
So imagine repainting your entire house
Okay.
every time you wanted to change the color of one wall.
That sounds like a lot of work.
That's essentially what happens without a virtual DOM.
Right.
Every little change triggers a complete update of the web page,
Wow, okay.
which can be super inefficient, and it makes the website feel really sluggish.
Right. So the virtual DOM is like that smart project manager
Exactly.
who just swoops in and figures out the most efficient way to get things done.
You got it. And it makes the whole experience smoother and faster,
Yeah, sure.
especially on websites with lots of interactions or animations.
Now, I got to imagine that the React community is another big plus for developers. Can you tell us a little bit about why that's so valuable?
Oh, the React community is amazing.
Yeah.
It's this global network of developers who are so passionate about sharing knowledge,
Okay.
helping each other,
Mm-hmm.
and just pushing the boundaries of what's possible with React.
Oh, cool.
And that translates into a wealth of resources.
Nice.
Free tutorials, forums,
Okay.
open source projects.
So it's like having this built-in support system
It is.
where if you get stuck,
Yeah,
there's always someone there who can help you out.
always.
That's got to be super valuable, especially
Oh.
for people who are just starting out.
For sure, it's one of the best parts of working with React.
Okay, so we've uncovered some awesome strengths about React,
Yeah.
but it's only fair to acknowledge the other side of the coin, right?
Absolutely.
What are some of the challenges that developers might encounter when they're working with React?
Okay, so while React offers a ton of flexibility and power,
It's important to remember that it doesn't give you a rigid framework
Oh
or
my
like
gosh.
a predefined way of structuring your project.
gotcha.
So it's kind of like being handed a blank canvas and a set of brushes.
Right.
You have the freedom to create whatever you want, but you also have to make decisions about like the composition, the style,
Okay.
the overall approach.
So that freedom can be a little bit daunting.
It can, especially as projects become more complex.
That makes sense. Any other challenges that developers should be aware of?
Yeah, I would say another one is keeping up with the constant evolution of libraries and tools
Okay.
within the React ecosystem. New libraries and updates are always popping up,
Right.
which can be exciting,
Yeah.
but also kind of overwhelming at times.
It sounds like React developers got to be ready to just embrace lifelong learning
Absolutely.
and just constantly adapt to the new tools and approaches.
The web development world never stands still.
Right. That's the nature of the beast.
Okay, well, this has been a fascinating look at the world of React, and we've only just scratched the surface.
There's so much more to explore.
So much more. We've talked about its strengths, its challenges, the awesome community that surrounds it, but we're just getting started.
Yeah, stay tuned.
We'll be back in a flash with part 2 of our React exploration, where we're going to unravel some of the more intricate layers of this awesome framework. But before we go, let's remind our listeners to hit that like button, share this episode with your fellow tech enthusiasts, and subscribe to the All Sorts podcast on YouTube. And hey, don't forget to follow us on X, Instagram, and Threads for even more insightful content. The All Sorts podcast is your passport to a world of endless exploration and discovery. We've got a treasure trove of episodes just waiting for you to unlock, covering all sorts of fascinating topics. So while we take a quick breather, why not embark on a listening adventure and explore the captivating stories, the insightful discussions, and the mind-bending ideas that we've curated just for you. We'll be back soon with part 2 of our deep dive into React, so stay tuned. Welcome back to the All Sorts podcast and our ongoing exploration of React. We've laid the groundwork, understanding those fundamental building blocks of this popular framework. But now let's venture a little bit deeper into some of the more advanced concepts that elevate React from like a toolkit to a true powerhouse.
Let's do it.
For web development.
All right.
So let's start with state management. We touched on this briefly in part one, mentioning how data flows in one direction within a React application.
Yeah.
But when projects grow more complex, managing the state of all these different components can get pretty tricky.
It can be a real juggling act, keeping track of all those changes.
Right, like a full-on circus act.
Exactly. And as applications grow, keeping track of all the data changes across multiple components can become overwhelming.
Yeah, for sure.
And that's where libraries like Redux come in.
Redux?
They offer a centralized approach to state management.
So it's like a control center for all your data.
Exactly.
So Redux sounds like it's the hero we need to fight data chaos.
It is. It really helps tame that complexity.
Can you break it down for us? How does it actually work?
So Redux provides like a centralized store for your application state. So think of it as this global repository where all the essential data lives.
Okay.
So instead of each component managing its own little piece of data, Redux acts as a single source of truth, ensuring consistency and predictability.
So it's like that master control panel.
Yes.
That orchestrates the flow of data across the whole application.
Keeps everything in sync.
Yeah, and prevents those data conflicts.
Exactly.
Okay,
yeah.
That makes a lot of sense.
It really simplifies things.
Yeah, and so now we've mentioned single-page applications, or SPAs, a couple of times.
Yeah.
Can you elaborate on how React is used to build these types of applications?
Sure. SPAs are becoming super popular these days.
Yeah.
Because they offer that really smooth app-like experience.
Right. It's like you're gliding through the website.
Exactly.
Instead of like hopping from page to page.
No more jarring page reloads.
Yeah.
It's all about that seamless flow.
So what makes React such a good fit for creating these seamless experiences?
Well, React's component-based structure and its efficient rendering capabilities play a key role here.
Gotcha.
So by breaking down the UI into those modular components, developers can update specific sections of the page without affecting the entire layout.
So it's kind of like having a team of specialized chefs working in sync to prepare a multi-course meal. Yeah. I like that analogy.
Each chef focuses on their specific dish.
Yeah.
But the overall dining experience remains smooth and uninterrupted.
Precisely. And to enhance the navigation and routing within these SPAs, React developers often use a library called React Router.
React Router?
Yeah, it's like a virtual GPS. Guiding users through the pathways of the SPA. It ensures smooth transitions without those full-page reloads.
Got it.
Creating a much more intuitive and enjoyable browsing experience.
So it's like having a really well-designed network of roads and bridges within your SPA, allowing users to navigate effortlessly between different sections.
Without encountering any roadblocks.
Yeah, no detours.
Exactly.
So are there any standout examples of companies that are using React to build these exceptional SPAs?
Oh, absolutely. Netflix is a prime example.
Oh, Netflix. They
use React extensively to power their streaming platform, handling millions of users and this massive library of content.
And React's component-based architecture allows them to really efficiently manage the complexity of their UI.
Got it.
Ensuring a seamless and responsive experience.
Yeah, because they got to keep things running smoothly.
They do.
With all that traffic.
Exactly.
Any other examples come to mind?
Yeah, Airbnb is another great one.
Airbnb, okay.
They use React to build their platform, connecting travelers with unique accommodations all over the world. And React's flexibility and performance capabilities allow them to create this really dynamic and engaging user experience.
Cool.
With beautiful imagery, interactive maps, personalized recommendations.
So it sounds like React is really playing a key role in shaping the future of web development.
It is.
Pushing the boundaries of what's possible in terms of interactivity and user experience.
Yeah, it's really exciting to see what people are building with it.
Now, we've been focusing a lot on React's role in front-end development. The part that users directly interact with.
Yeah, the visual stuff.
But I'm curious about its potential on the back end.
Okay.
The behind-the-scenes logic that powers an application.
Right.
Does React have a presence there as well?
It does.
Okay.
So while React is primarily known for its front-end prowess, it can also be used in conjunction with server-side rendering techniques.
Server-side rendering?
Yeah, to enhance the performance and SEO capabilities of web applications.
So that sounds intriguing.
It is.
Can you explain how that technique works and how React fits into the picture?
Okay, so traditionally, when someone visits a website that's powered by React, their browser receives an almost empty HTML document.
Okay.
And then it has to download and execute the JavaScript code to render the content.
Gotcha.
And that can lead to a delay before the user sees anything on the page.
Yeah, that's never a good thing.
It's not.
Especially if you're trying to keep people engaged.
It can impact the user experience.
Right.
And even your search engine optimization.
So it's like receiving a blank canvas.
Yeah. Instead of a completed painting, you got to wait for the artist to fill in all the details before you can really appreciate it.
Exactly.
So server-side rendering is like getting that finished painting right away.
Yes.
You can see it instantly, and search engines can index it more effectively.
Right. And so React plays a role in this because there are libraries and frameworks like Next.js that are specifically designed to integrate React with these server-side rendering techniques.
Gotcha.
So developers can use that component-based approach that they love to build applications that benefit from both the performance advantages of server-side rendering and the flexibility and interactivity of React on the front end.
So it's like getting the best of both worlds.
Exactly.
So what are some of the advantages of using a framework like Next.js for server-side rendering with React?
Well, one of the biggest advantages is improved performance.
Okay.
So as we talked about, server-side rendering delivers a complete HTML document to the browser.
Which means the user sees the content faster, and the page becomes interactive more quickly.
Got it.
And this can really enhance the user experience.
Especially for people with slower connections or older devices.
Yeah. Especially for them.
Yeah.
So faster loading times and a smoother experience.
That's always a good thing.
It is.
Any other benefits of using Next.js?
Yeah. Another significant advantage is improved SEO.
Okay.
So search engines can crawl and index pages that are server-side rendered more easily because they receive a complete HTML document.
Got it.
With all the relevant content right there.
So Next.js is like a spotlight shining on your website.
Exactly.
Making it more visible to those search engine crawlers.
It helps them see what's there.
Which ultimately means more visitors.
More organic traffic.
Now, what about from a developer's perspective?
Okay.
How does a framework like Next.js affect how they build and manage their applications?
Well, Next.js actually simplifies the development process. Because it handles a lot of the complexities of server-side rendering behind the scenes, it offers features like automatic code splitting, built-in routing, and pre-rendering.
Got it.
Which can save developers a ton of time and effort.
That sounds like a developer's dream.
It is.
Having an assistant that just takes care of all those tedious tasks.
Yeah.
So they can focus on the fun stuff.
Exactly.
Now, I want to switch gears a little bit.
Okay.
And talk about another exciting aspect of React.
Yeah.
Its ability to create animations.
Animations.
Or transitions that just bring those web applications to life.
Animations are so important.
They really are.
For crafting those really engaging and delightful user experiences.
Yeah, they can add visual interest.
Yeah.
Subtly guide users' attention, provide feedback during interactions, and just make the whole experience feel more intuitive and responsive.
And React provides this really flexible and powerful framework for integrating with third-party animation libraries.
Okay, so it doesn't have like built-in animation features.
It doesn't.
But it's ready to play with other libraries.
It is.
That sounds like a good approach.
It is.
So what are some of those popular animation libraries that people are using?
So there's React Spring.
Okay, React Spring.
Framer Motion.
Framer Motion.
And Animated.
Animated, okay.
And they offer a wide range of animation options. Making it really easy to add smooth, eye-catching motion to your React applications.
So React is like that master choreographer.
It is.
Providing a stage for all these animation libraries to just show off their move.
To bring that UI to life.
What makes each of these libraries unique, and what types of animations are they best suited for?
So React Spring is a great choice for creating physics-based animations that feel really natural and fluid.
Gotcha.
It's based on Spring physics, so you can create animations that respond to user interactions in a really realistic way.
So it's like bringing those laws of physics into the digital world.
Exactly. What about Framer Motion? Framer Motion offers a more declarative and intuitive approach to creating animations. It's got a bunch of pre-built animations and transitions that you can customize. So it's like a treasure chest. It is full of ready-to-use animation gems.
It really is.
And animated. So the animated API provides a more lower-level approach to animation. So it gives developers more granular control over the whole process.
Got it. So it's like that super powerful engine that lets developers fine-tune those animations for maximum precision.
Exactly.
Okay, awesome. So this has been a really fascinating look at animations in React.
Yeah.
It's amazing how much they enhance that user experience and just bring life and personality to those web applications.
They can make a huge difference.
Now, there's one more crucial aspect I want to touch on before we wrap up part 2.
Okay.
And that's testing.
Testing.
Why is testing so important in React development?
So testing is super important.
Yeah.
In any software development process.
Right.
But it's especially important in React because of its component-based nature.
Got it.
React applications are built by assembling all these smaller reusable components. And it's really crucial to ensure that each component is functioning correctly. Both in isolation and harmoniously with other components.
So it's like making sure every instrument in an orchestra is tuned perfectly before the symphony begins.
Exactly.
Okay, so what are some of the common types of testing that are used in React development?
So there's unit testing.
Unit testing.
Integration testing and end-to-end testing.
Okay, so unit testing, I'm guessing, is where you focus on those individual components.
Exactly.
Making sure they work in isolation.
Yeah, it's all about verifying that each component receives the correct input, produces the expected output, and handles different scenarios correctly.
Got it. And then what about integration testing?
So integration testing focuses on how those different components work together.
Okay.
So it's about making sure that the data is flowing correctly
right.
between them, that they're communicating effectively, and that the overall functionality of a group of components is as expected.
So that's like rehearsing the orchestra.
It is.
Making sure each section plays in harmony with the others.
To create that beautiful, cohesive musical piece.
And then finally, end-to-end testing.
End-to-end testing is the most comprehensive type of testing.
Okay.
It simulates those real user scenarios.
Gotcha.
Interacting with your app through the user interface, just like a user would.
Okay.
So you're making sure the entire system is functioning correctly from the user's perspective.
Got it.
Covering all those interactions and data flows.
So that's like attending the orchestra's grand performance.
It is.
Experiencing the music as the audience would.
Yeah.
And making sure that the entire production, from the conductor to the musicians, delivers a flawless experience.
Exactly.
Okay, so that's a great overview of the different types of testing. But what about the tools?
No.
What do developers actually use to perform these tests?
So there are a bunch of great testing tools and libraries available for React developers. One of the most popular ones is Jest.
Jest,
which is a testing framework created by Facebook.
Gotcha.
It's known for being really simple to use. Being fast. And it has some powerful features like snapshot testing.
Snapshot testing.
Yeah, which lets you easily capture and compare the rendered output of your components. So it's like taking a picture of your component to make sure it looks the way it's supposed to.
Exactly. And then if something changes unexpectedly,
you'll know right away.
You'll catch it in the snapshot.
You got it.
Okay, cool. What about React Testing Library?
So React Testing Library encourages developers to write tests that focus on how users interact with their app. So it provides a set of utilities that allow you to interact with your components in a way that mimics real user behavior rather than testing internal implementation details.
So you're really putting yourself in the user's shoes.
Exactly.
Making sure that the application behaves as expected.
It's all about prioritizing that user experience.
Okay, awesome. So that's React Testing Library.
Yeah.
And this has been a super valuable insight into the importance of testing in React development.
Yeah, testing is key.
It really is.
For building reliable and robust applications.
We've covered a lot of ground in this episode.
They have.
Delving into all these advanced React concepts and techniques.
It's their journey.
But our exploration's not over yet. Join us for part 3. Where we're going to continue our deep dive, uncovering the magic of hooks in context and exploring how they further enhance React's power and versatility. Welcome back to the All Sorts podcast for the final part of our React deep dive. We've journeyed through the foundational concepts, we've explored those advanced techniques, and now it's time to uncover the gems that truly make React shine. Hooks and context.
I love hooks and context. They really elevate React development, offering this elegance and efficiency that can totally change the way you build applications.
Okay, I am ready to be enlightened. How do these concepts actually enhance the React experience?
So hooks were introduced in React 16.8.
Okay.
And they basically revolutionized the way we write components.
Okay.
They give you this way to tap into React's state and lifecycle features without having to rely on those class components. So it's a more functional and concise approach.
So it's like having direct access to React's inner workings.
Yeah.
Without all that ceremony of the class-based structure.
Exactly. It makes things so much simpler.
Can you give us a real-world example of how hooks streamline state management?
Sure. So imagine you're building a component that needs to track a user's shopping cart.
Okay.
In the past, you would have used a class component with a constructor to initialize that cart state, and then methods to add or remove items.
Okay.
But with the useState hook, you can do all of that in a much cleaner, more concise way within a functional component.
So it's like taking this multi-step recipe and condensing it down to a single elegant instruction.
Exactly.
Less room for error, way easier to follow.
Hooks really promote readability, maintainability, and reduce those chances of bugs, especially as your components get more complex.
Now, you mentioned UseEffect earlier.
Yeah.
What exactly does it do, and why are developers so hyped about it?
So UseEffect is super powerful.
Okay.
It helps you manage side effects within your components.
Side effects?
Yeah. So these are any actions that interact with the world outside of React.
Okay.
So things like fetching data from an API, setting up timers, or directly manipulating the DOM.
So it's like React's way of handling those tasks that go beyond just rendering the UI.
Exactly.
It's those interactions with the outside world.
It is, and UseEffect gives you this structured and reliable way to perform these side effects.
Yeah.
So it makes sure they happen at the right time and don't mess with the rendering process.
So it's like that dedicated stage manager.
Yeah.
Who makes sure all the behind-the-scenes stuff runs smoothly without interrupting the show.
Exactly. UseEffect brings order to the chaos of side effects.
Nice.
Gives developers more control and definitely more peace of mind.
I like it. Okay, now let's talk about context. What is it, and why is it so valuable?
Context is all about simplifying data sharing between components in your app. So it's this elegant way to pass data down the component tree without having to do what we call prop drilling.
Prop drilling. I've heard of this, but it sounds kind of awful.
It can be. So imagine a deeply nested component tree, and a component way down in the tree needs access to some data that's stored up at the top level.
Right.
Without context, you'd have to pass that data as props through each component in between, even if those components don't actually need that data.
Yeah, that sounds messy.
It gets really cluttered.
Okay.
Hard to track the data flow.
So it's like passing a baton through a line of runners.
Yeah.
When only a couple of them are actually running the race.
I love that.
So context is like having a central information hub that components can tap into as needed.
Exactly. Eliminates the need for that prop drilling, makes your code cleaner and way easier to maintain.
What kind of data typically gets shared using context?
So it's often used for global data that's needed across multiple components, like user authentication theme settings and language preferences.
Got it. So it's like this invisible network.
It is.
That seamlessly connects those components with the data they need.
Precisely. Once you understand the power of context, you wonder how you ever built apps without it.
This has been a seriously enlightening journey into the world of React.
It's a fascinating world.
It really is. We've gone from those fundamental principles to some pretty advanced techniques. And now we've explored the magic of hooks and context.
Yeah.
It's clear that React empowers developers to create some seriously innovative, engaging, and performant web applications.
It does, and it has this awesome community.
It really does.
So it's no wonder it's become so popular.
Well, this wraps up our React Deep Dive. We've covered a lot, but this is really just the beginning of your exploration.
Yeah, go out there and build something amazing.
That's right. The React community is huge and vibrant, with tons of resources and support for developers at every level.
There's always something new to learn.
That's the fun part.
It is.
And as always, thank you for joining us on the All Sorts podcast. Don't forget to hit that like button, share this episode with your fellow tech enthusiasts, and subscribe to our channel on YouTube. And hey, connect with us on X, Instagram, and Threads for even more insightful content and behind-the-scenes glimpses. Until next time, keep those minds curious and those creative sparks flying.